was in charge, we had this backward integration to try to grow wheat. It never really worked out. I think part of the reason was the type of wheat or the type of seed we had couldn't really grow in Nigeria. But this time, Olam, which is a big commodities player, is now partnering with the federal government to try to plant wheat because, of course, it's a big demand for it, of course, with the slowdown in supply from Russia. Just to give you guys perspective, right? Wheat is Nigeria's number one imported non-energy good. So the number one import Nigeria makes, the number one is PMS, right? So PMS is give or take about 17% of the total imports that Nigeria brings into the country. After PMS, of course, you have the same gas, oil. So both of them are energy. PMS is about 17%, gas, oil about 7%. Then wheat, wheat from the USA, we do about 130, I would say about between the USA and Lithuania, we're doing about 130 billion in wheat imports, and that constitutes about nearly 5% of the total import that Nigeria makes. So this is a big deal. If Nigeria can do backward integration and stop the imports of wheat, then we can save that forex, and we can also start to get our farmers perhaps to get engaged and possibly maybe look to talk about exports or reducing the cost of food in Nigeria. The big question is, of course, insecurity. Where are you going to plant this wheat? It's going to be up north, right? And we have to sort out the insecurity up north so that we can then have the farmers essentially planting wheat out there for us. So, good story. Let's hope that we can take that through. The second story again is also from Reuters. We're going international today, right, guys? So Reuters is reporting about the U.S. inflation. U.S. inflation came off surprisingly high. The market was expecting about 8.1 or so, but the market came out with about 8.3. So that was higher than expectation, right? And the key thing about this CPI data, the consumer price index data that came out in the US, is that the things that went up in price are things that you cannot avoid, right? So rent is up, food is up, healthcare is up. You have to stay in your house, so you have to buy food. If you fall sick, you have to go to the doctor. So you can't really avoid these expenses. So this is really epidemic. The inflation actually sunk its teeth into the American consumer. PMS, or should we say, in what they call in America, gas prices would have been high as well. Only that the president, Joe Biden, is releasing crude oil from the strategic petroleum reserves of America, and that is bringing down the cost of gas in America. So if they were not releasing those reserves, gas prices in America will be up and up and up. So the story is that inflation in America is up. How does it affect Nigeria? Well, look at it this way. If inflation goes up in America, the US Federal Reserve has got to increase interest rates in America to bring inflation back down. The problem is that when it increases interest rates in America, it makes the dollar denominated investments more attractive to foreigners. So the reason why a foreigner might come to Nigeria to invest in Nigeria is because our bonds pay about 8%. They are very risky, but they pay 8%. So the investor will be like, okay, I'll take that risk because I'm getting paid 8%. But when US rates start to go to 1, 2, 3%, the investor will be like, well, I don't need to take that amount of risk by coming to Nigeria. I can invest in the US and I can get possibly a good yield of 3, 4%. I'm okay with that. So that's the connection between the US inflation rates and Nigeria. The higher inflation goes up in America, then the more the Federal Reserve would have to raise rates. They have to raise rates above inflation. That's the only way they can bring it down. And the more they raise the rates, the more those rates become attractive to international investors, and our own bonds become less and less and less attractive. That's the connection. That's why we want to watch US inflation rates and US interest rates closely, because it affects our ability to borrow. You can see already Nigeria is saying they're going to cut down on foreign lending and go more into local borrowing, which also is going to cause a problem for the local lenders. So those two international stories, the wheat story is very positive. The inflation number, not so positive. There's nothing really we can do about it, just to watch it and see. Then our next story is going to be Nigerian, and this is from, I think it's from the Punch, and it's talking about the Nigerian Senate has started its investigation of crude oil theft in Nigeria. So, I mean, we've been talking about this. It's from the Punch. Sorry, guys. Punch. Senate begins oil theft probe in the Niger Delta. So we see the Senate ad hoc committee. The chairman of that committee, Basi Akpan, has told journalists they all flew to Port Harcourt that the Senate is investigating the spate of crude oil theft and the corresponding shortage of revenues to Nigeria that's going on. I'm surprised it's taking this long because this is a major issue. I hear production is below 1 million. To put it in perspective for you, as at March 2020, as March 2000, right, Nigeria was doing give or take about 2 million barrels a day. Now we're doing less than 1 million barrels per day. So 1 million barrels a day gone. It's either stolen or it's shut in. So it's either being stolen from the pipes or the oil companies are not pumping to avoid it being stolen. But anyways, we're not getting that crude oil out. And if we don't get that crude oil out, revenues are not flowing to the government. If revenues don't flow to the government is left with no option but to borrow. And when the government keeps on borrowing, it keeps the interest rate in the economy high. It crowds out the small and medium enterprises. So your ability to borrow becomes impeded because the federal government is a big borrower and a better borrower than you, the SME. So this is a big, big, big problem. I think it's Nigeria's number one problem, this crude oil theft and all that. We have to really get a handle on it. There's just no way a sovereign nation can sit back and lose nearly 1 million barrels a day. I mean, just do the calc. Even if you use $50 and you do 1 million barrels a day, just think of the revenue loss that is occurring in Nigeria because we have not gotten a handle on that crude oil theft. I think we should be more forceful, and it's to go also international, not just to stop the crude oil theft in Nigeria, but to try to institute something like a passport scheme or a certification scheme where refineries have got to certify that they are buying crude oil from a nation. So when a ship rolls up to a refinery abroad, the refinery has got to request for a certificate that says this amount of crude oil was taken from Nigeria or Angola, and Nigeria has to verify that yes, this is the quantity of crude oil that we sold. Because what is going on, unfortunately, is that the theft I hear is happening at the formal and official ports of loading. So they go to the ports of loading and they are loading more than they are allowed to load. That's what I'm hearing. So we have to sort that out and make sure we get our full revenues. All right, guys. The next story here is on the cable. It says Barclays expands to Nigeria, South Africa, eyes 2 trillion private banking wealth. So the story is saying that Barclays, based in UK, is partnering with Credit Suisse, which are based out there in Dubai, London, and Zurich. And in essence, what's going to happen is that Credit Suisse will refer high network clients to Barclays. So in Nigeria, for instance, they would refer high network Nigerians to Barclays, who will then do business with them, just like they do with clients across the world. The news for me here is that, okay, we are being recognized as high net worth, should we say, location, and I hopefully this will attract them back. I hope to maybe set up a branch in Nigeria and then sort of try to attract those services that the high net worth individuals will then demand. More or less, I'm looking at if we have a dot on the map that says Barclays in Nigeria, it does help to attract a certain investor class back to Nigeria. Barclays has been divesting really from Africa, right? It's been shutting down in South Africa. It sold its retail brand outlook, retail locations in South Africa and all that, right? But I don't focus on the high net worth individuals like Dangote, right? So hopefully, if they do that, then possibly maybe they can also attract credit. That's what I'm trying to go to. If they're in Nigeria, then possibly they can also attract credit from abroad to invest in Nigeria for those high network clients as well. So it's a positive story and a hopeful story for me. I like to always see institutions come to Nigeria to do business because it then attracts their suppliers, it then attracts all the bankers to say if Barclays is in Nigeria, we should also go take a peek at Nigeria and see if there's something we could do there as well. Then, of course, guys, let's talk about the story about the telecom tax. I think we're talking about it, I think, for the whole week. So the telecom tax, the federal government put a 5% telecom tax on all business in Nigeria. It was passed. It was in the medium expenditure framework, but the Minister of Telecommunications came out and said, no, that tax has been removed. It's no longer going to be assessed. And it looks like that is going to be the situation right now. So we might have to redo our medium-term expenditure framework and take off that 5% telecom tax. Already the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, NECA, is of course commending the Minister of Telecoms for taking away that tax. There's a lot of taxes right now in Nigeria because the Nigerian government is not earning revenues. Whenever the government is borrowing, it's the same effect as the government raising your taxes. The only reason why banks lend to a government is because the government has the ability to borrow money or to raise your taxes and pay back the bank. So whenever you see a bank, the government borrowing, it's just like a tax hike on you. It's a faster way to raise revenue than a tax hike. So we've seen the sugar tax, we've seen telecom tax, we've seen an increase in the VAT, and more are going to come. We're going to see an alcoholic tax and all that. More taxes are going to come. The simple reason being that the government has no tax revenues. Nigeria's tax to GDP and tax to revenues lowest, I think, in the entire world. The entire world. So that's a big problem for Nigeria and a big, low-hanging fruit for the next president. He can easily turn that table around by increasing compliance with tax laws already in place. Nigeria tax if they see that you are going to spend it properly. I think the issue here that Nigerians do not trust the spenders of the money, so they are not paying taxes. Nigerians only pay taxes because they are forced to or they have to. No Nigerian is voluntarily paying a tax because the guys that manage the money are letting us down. What are we doing with the revenues? We are spending revenues on importation of PMS, and we're cutting back on health and education budgets to import PMS. That makes no sense. So I wouldn't pay taxes if my government would take my taxes to import PMS and not build schools. So we have to do a rejig and sell the idea that the government is paying, you are paying your taxes to the government for the general good. We have to do that rejig, and hopefully with that and enforcement and citizens seeing where their tax revenues are going to, it would then perhaps increase the compliance level of Nigerians. All right, guys, those are the stories I have for us today. I see Ahmed. Ahmed, you want to say a word? Do you want to say a quick word before we shut down? How are you doing, sir?
Hello, good morning.
Hey, Ahmed.
It's nice to be here, honestly. And the topic you have observed so far are really worthwhile. It's worthwhile to really see how we can contribute to really have a broader perspective of some of these issues you have raised, like this value added tax.
Yeah.
It's a welcome development, actually. You see, no nation can survive without tax. It's just like you saying somebody is paying his rent or somebody is paying his contribution to the society.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's a welcome development that the federal government is trying to add. That's it's just
want to pay taxes?
Yeah, we like the pay tax, honestly, because some of our colleagues that travel abroad have told us that the tax there is so amazing. That they tax you for everything in abroad. Some of these foreign nations, that the tax is so high, and we Nigerians, we are good at copying sometimes, but we don't copy the good aspect of this. That's my problem with our people.
I hear
Sometimes
you. I hear you. I would come back to you and say the government has not raised wage since the minimum wage is still 30,000. Fuel prices up, inflation is up, every right, and the government really has not shown you prudence in and there's no prudence. So this is the problem. I want to pay tax, right? But if the government is going to pay tax revenue and build a library in the National Assembly, why should I? I think that's about the point.
Yeah. So actually, you have a point, but the thing is about we can't keep on pointing fingers. We must
Okay.
we must start from somewhere. Actually, we must start. It's a work in progress.
Okay.
We can't say we will
All
not pay
right.
that because we don't have confidence that our government are not going to use it properly. But let's start by paying first. In fact,
Okay.
to be frank, it's not even an option for you to pay or not to pay. It's a force. It's like a law. Tax is like a
Okay.
regulation. Yeah. So once if the government is serious, they have a way of paying of making the citizen pay by force.
Okay.
Because to be frank with you, nobody want to be part with his finance or money. We're all human beings, we're selfish.
All right.
Even me, I'm taking to you deep in my mind. If I have option, I won't pay. I'll dodge.
Okay.
I'm a human being. I want to accumulate wealth. I want to live better life. I love myself more than you. It's
Okay.
normal because I'm a human being. So nobody wants to depart with his finance. But the federal government or the law enforcement agency have to find a way of forcing people to pay and putting fine or sanction on people that are caught to be defaulting or that won't pay.
I hear you. I
And
mean, that
it's a
that's
good way to go.
I
It's a good
respect
one. Honestly.
that's
Thank you very much. It's a good one. That task is a good way. That's to me. Thank you very much.
excellent.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sure many would disagree, but I respect your opinion and to expect that we pay that tax. I hear you. No worries. So guys, Ahmed, thank you so much. Kate, did you want to agree with Ahmed, or do you want to pay your taxes, or you don't want to pay taxes, Casey? What's your take on that?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. Casey, quickly, we're gonna shut down. Do you want to unmute and say a word before we shut down? All right. Excellent. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. We do this every morning, or we try to do this every morning by maybe doing.
Sorry. My mic was on mute.
Okay.
I want to disagree with the last speaker because you cannot tax we don't have a large taxable population. The fact is that a lot of Nigerians are poor, and then the solution, if you are going to increase tax, first of all, you have to create wealth. You have to make people earn. How do you do that? You invest in small businesses so that when they do business, they're able to pay tax. So you can only tax civil servants. We don't have a lot of people who earn.
Which one
So
comes first? Should you say you increase the wealth, then you tax the wealth, right? So that's what you're saying, right?
yes, you increase wealth when you tax. You cannot tax the poor when they don't have money. So you have to increase wealth first. The government have to invest in small businesses, create job, create production, create productivity in the economy. Then you can tax.
Yeah, I mean that's my take as well. The government has to create the opportunities for jobs to be created, right? To reduce the cost of doing business in Nigeria. If there's power supply and I'm not paying for diesel for generators, and I have more money to pay taxes. But if I'm paying for water, I'm paying for diesel, I'm paying for healthcare, I'm paying for security, I'm paying for education, I'm paying for everything, then why am I paying taxes? I think that's the point that people would argue about. Taxes is a big. People are not going to pay taxes in Nigeria. I mean, because they don't see the value of it. I mean, even in the United States, Ahmed is talking about there's the Laffer curve. Laffer said if you increase taxes to 100%, you get zero revenues. The same way, if taxes are 0%, you get zero revenues. So high taxes people don't pay, low taxes people don't pay, especially when you have a situation where the government has not shown prudence. This is the point again, prudence. There has to be prudence by the government. Maybe the next folks that are running for office have got to show transparency in how they're going to spend public funds. Hey, Toyib, real quick, what's on your mind? Toyib, hi, you want to unmute and go ahead and speak? That's Amo Toyib.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Please, just a quick one now, sir. I heard you saying people don't pay. One concept I'm supposed to get clear is that is it people don't pay or the government don't enforce it? Nobody wants to part with his money. Go and find that anywhere in the world. Tax is being enforced. It's just like the law, rule and regulation. Nobody wants to pay. Nobody voluntarily pay. So I need that clarification. Can I get clarification, please?
I will that people are not going to pay in Nigeria voluntarily. Let me put it that way. If you go to Lekki Phase 1, for instance, in Lagos, Lekki Phase 1, that whole area is now a service hub. There are lots of IT, lots of SMEs in that Lekki Phase 1. You don't see any signboards outside. They're all indoors. Nobody wants to identify himself because of the high taxes that Lagos charges to park your car, to put a signboard. So all those taxes, it defeats. People don't want to expose or to advertise themselves. This is the point. If you show transparency, the monies I'm paying for taxation are going to this road or that road. Tax will go up. That's the point. No one's going to pay tax if you're going to use that money and build a national or import fuel. That's just the point.
Okay, it's clear. I understand. I get you. It's clear. I understand that aspect now.
Got you. All right. Thank you so much. Gabriel, hey, we're going to shut this down. Gabriel, real quick, what's on your mind, bro?
Yeah, can I speak now?
Yeah, go for it. Gabriel, I think you mute yourself. So Shine B, let me just take you. Let me take Shine. You guys have to get easier Twitter names. Shine Broth V3. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning,
Hi.
sir.
Yeah, real quick. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Port Harcourt, Nigeria.
What's on your mind?
I'm calling from Nigeria. Okay. One thing we need to know is that taxes are good for government to run what are daily necessities, but whereby things are not being made up. That's to say, whereby government is not reliable on how our taxes are being spent, nobody would want to. It's just like I need a road to access my farm, or maybe I need a road to do my daily movement, and it's not there. Would you expect me to pay taxes? No way. It's not done. I need electricity, but it's not there. But rather, I'm spending my money to buy fuel. I'm spending that to run my generator. I'm spending my money to do what again? To provide my security. Where is it done? It's not done. So if we are comparing ourselves with the advanced countries where these things are done, which is the right of every individual, basic life necessity, then people will be willing to pay taxes. And so therefore we need to get that mindset that not until government is able to do what? To get the necessities via the prudent management of our taxes, then there will be joy for people to pay tax. Because I myself, I pay tax, but it's not same.
I got you.
I do my NSITF. I do I remit money to FIRS. So where's the money? And so one day somebody will wake up and tell you that, oh, so much was eaten by lion, or maybe one animal or the other. It doesn't make sense. We have to.
I agree with you. I mean, we used to have a time in Nigeria where the the finance minister would publish the amounts given by FAC to the states, the local government, and all that. And it was very transparent. I now saw how much my local government chairman was getting, down to the kobo, right? So that was very, very open and very transparent, and it puts the public officials under pressure to deliver. So when I see the remittances now from the National Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, it's not so detailed. They stop at the state level. They don't really drill down to the local government level. So there has to be transparency. There has to be activity. If you are giving public funds, people want to see where those funds are going to. Do a budget. The budget will say, we got 100 naira, 20 naira went here, 10 naira went here. This is where your tax money is going to. Then people will be like, okay, even if they take the money from me, at least they're building a hospital. But if you take the money and you're renting a private jet or you're building the stadium, why am I going to pay tax on if you're going to build a stadium? All right, guys, let me let you guys all go. This is just going to be supposed to be a 15 minutes business papers. We've done that. Join us tomorrow, same time. Either it's going to be 7 a.m. where we just review what's going on, set you guys up for the week or for the day. All right, thank you so much. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good day and bye.